Hello, everybody. Mark Sage, Executive Director of the Area AR for Enterprise Alliance, with our latest Fireside chat. This is where we chat to some of the industry experts, basically to pick their brains and understand what they're doing. And I'm really excited to have Dan and Matthew from informXR. Dan, why don't you just quickly explain what informXR is?
Yeah, so we are a data analytics company focused on the XR space. Basically started this to help this industry learn from their own data and learn from kind of the collective. I spent about 30 years in IT and in cybersecurity, and it wasn't until we all started measuring well and being able to measure up and like share our measurements up to the senior management that we started getting more budget. We started being able to prove what good looked like and how we would understand that as an industry. And I was seeing that gap in this space. And so I've been thinking about this for several years. And then last year decided to start informXR to start addressing this challenge.
Fantastic. And Matthew, perhaps you can explain a little bit about your role within informXR.
Yeah, so I'm the VP of product here at informXR, work on the UX of the web application that we have that provides the dashboards. You make custom dashboards, publish applications with us, and working on that as well as some marketing efforts.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matthew. Well, let's start with our first question then, and Dan will come to you to start with. How can XR professionals learn what good looks like in training, and why is it important for the industry to share insights?
Yeah, it's very crucial to understand. And like just use this example. If you're in a school for a second, and you're teaching your students, and they're learning, and you think you're doing well, and you're doing that in your own little bubble. If you don't step back sometimes and look at like what does the universe of schooling and education look like? How does the state look? How does the state nation look? How does the nation match up against the world? You're going to miss out. And maybe you're doing great things, but you won't actually know until you start measuring and start looking. So what does it good look like? I don't know yet. What I would say is that when businesses can actually measure improvement, right? So it'd be either the school or let's take a business, when you can actually report up to senior management where they want to see the data. They want to see this location has done this much training, let's say it's safety training. And then a year from now, they go back and look and look at they're looking in Power BI, for instance, and they're looking at their data and their business and profit margins. And they say, hey, we're having less injuries over here, which is costing us less money. What changed? What happened? And then you can correlate those data points. Now all of a sudden they go, oh, that's saving us money, even with the cost of the program. Let's go do it in more locations. That's how we're going to scale. That's what good starts to look like to the business, right? Schools, student outcomes, they're not going to want to go and look in your VR product for what is measured there. They're going to want to look in their LMS where they're tracking all of their student data, where they see the data and how it's impacting the school. That's going to help them determine what good looks like, right? Is you're seeing these outcomes. So it's an outcome based. And it's not a user survey at the end or a teacher on a notepad trying to do this. You can't do that at scale. You have to measure it in the products and get that bubbled up to where the organization wants to see measurements. That's where we're going to start to understand what good looks like.
Matthew, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, just in case anyone's not a active teacher, an LMS is a learning management system. And that's where its example would be Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, SAP Success Factors for enterprise. And these are the places that people view scores on their learners, their employees and whatnot.
Yeah, and actually HR departments also use LMSs to track their employee trainings and things like that. So LMSs are kind of used kind of across the board.
Yeah, certainly with a number of the area members, LMS and from a training perspective is well recognized and well known. But yeah, thank you, Matthew, for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, sticking with you, Matthew, let's talk about kind of the role of data and what role does data play in breaking the black box of XR training and making it more measurable and actionable?
Yeah. So when you're putting someone into a headset, I can't think of a more uh, obvious example of a black box than a VR headset. It's literally a box that is black until you put an image into it, and then you can't really see into it what they're seeing unless you have like a way to what is it called? Transmit the video to a screen that you have outside. And so
Yeah.
that is one way, and you can do that on one-on-ones. But beyond that, when you're going to scale, like Dan was saying, you're really not able to look at everyone's video feed and figure out how well they're doing in the program. What you're going to want to do is have a way to collect data from it that, well, how we do it at informXR, we do it on an event-based system. So when they start the program, we know where they're at in the program, what they've just picked up, for example, what score they're getting on, any certain assessment they might be taking in VR. And with that sort of data, you're able to break the black box open and see really what's happening, because without that, you're just seeing maybe how satisfied they were with the experience at the end of the day, and that may be affected by how pretty it was, what the graphics were like, yada yada. Like on a scale from 1 to 10, they call it a Likert score. That's really
Hmm.
not satisfactory usually in determining the actual success of it. You want to be knowing the learning outcomes and how well they're retaining the information, for example, and relating it to further measurables in the company. So if you have a nursing school, for example, if they're able to see less incidents, for example, after they start using the training in XR, and correlate that by who was taking the training. So if you connect to an LMS, you can see who is taking it, how many times they've taken it. Is it based off of how many times they've taken the training? Is that really affecting the score that they're getting at the end of the day? And all of that is really how you break that black box, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think I was just thinking to myself, when we create these projects, be it immersive technology, all sorts of things, we can't often have these great kind of objectives and measurements or things we want to show that it's been successful. So we kind of write that down on paper and we give that to management and say, hey, this is what we're going to. But very rarely do we then work out how to actually do that. And I guess that's what informXR is doing. It's taking that, hey, we need to make these improvements or we're going to be better at doing these things, but we need to measure it. Is that then a kind of a high level summary of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, as Matthew was saying, our event-based model lets the developer pick what they care about, and learn from it. And what we're seeing too is a lot of times, especially with VR right now, these developers build an amazing experience training. It gets installed on a headset, and they have no way to collect data from that. These guys are not experts in building a data platform where they can actually get the data and put it in a secure location and go through all the compliances. They can't do all that. So they're stuck just kind of asking, like, how did it work? Right. And that's a black box to them because it's now over the fence and they can't see what's happening. If they embed our solution into it, they actually get some visibility into what the user's actually going through and how they're accomplishing things. And like, oh, they added this new element, and then they find out like nobody even noticed it and nobody even used it, and they wasted a bunch of time, right? I like the analogy of like, a game developer puts like it's four weapons on the table that the person could pick up, and people only pick up one of two. What the other ones, they went and did a whole bunch of work on modeling it and the bullet structures and how it's going to fire, and nobody ever picks it up because these other ones look cooler, right? But they don't know that if they're not recording this somewhere and tracking it.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, insightful. Dan, coming back to you on the last question then. So, and this is something which is very much the heart of certainly the enterprise AR space and XR space. So how can XR solutions be made secure, and secure is the kind of critical part, and easy to implement in sensitive industries like kind of healthcare and defense and education?
Yeah. So the way they're doing secure right now is they just they have no internet connection. They don't record data out, and so that's kind of the security model that we're seeing with a lot of folks, and that's kind of old school. I've been in cybersecurity for 25 years, building hacking products, building testing products, building, at my former company, we would run scans and find vulns on customers' networks. And we data housed all of their vulnerabilities, right? So we had to build a secure platform. So I was very comfortable with that. I know most folks don't have some of that experience, especially in the VR space. So we put our system together to deal with that. We're still going through the compliance audits and things like that, but we'll pass because we built this whole platform to be secure. If you get down to like some of the most secure models where it has to be an entirely on-prem solution, we can actually support that. We actually have, everything's all containerized and segmented network infrastructure. So we built it all out for those purposes. And that's how we can give the developers using our product, that's how we give them that security. The other thing that's important and a big twist on how a lot of people are kind of doing this today is coming into this. For me, the owner of the data is the end customer, right? So whatever enterprise is buying the software product, their data is their data, right? Same with, and this is in education, right? The student and how well they did and the student's information, that is the school's data. It is not owned by the content developer. So we separate that. And when you use ours, the owner is the end customer, not the software developer building the content. We do make things available, and we have a permission structure so that the enterprise or education institution or whatever can actually give the developers rights if they want to, so that they can help debug stuff. But other than some like debug logs and things like that, so now they have a debugging solution that the ISV sees very little. It's all owned by the enterprise. And so that's a big difference as well. A lot of other products out there, well, there's not very many other products, but I've seen one of the other products is kind of purchased by the software vendor and they kind of own that license and those things. I don't like that. I want the enterprise to own their own data. And that's a big key to the design of our whole security model.
That's great. Matthew, just going back to you, because you've mentioned it a few times about the developers, and that's really kind of one of your key markets or targets. Could you just talk a little bit about how that works, and then maybe just some information on where people can find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of our data collection libraries, they work for Unity, for Unreal Engine, for WebXR and WebGL. So you can do it for XR headsets, for AR headsets, and also for tablets, for example, using our WebGL versions of the data collection libraries. And so if you go to our website at informXR.com, you can go to our developer page and download the SDKs, and it should be pretty simple to get set up, make an account on our web application, and you'd be off to the races with our, well-documented events and whatnot.
Perfect. Dan, Matthew, thank you very much for those great insights. I look forward to working with informXR, and good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.